All right, I hope everybody's okay. Sure you can tell by just looking what's in front of you. We're going to talk a little bit about the trapper pattern, case knives, and we're going to talk a little bit about maybe helping to talk just a little bit about the stainless steel, or their version, what they call Tru-Sharp, versus the chrome vanadium. Okay, so basically, I mean, it's easy to see when you first get your knife, and you see that right there on it, you see that CV, that right there stands for chrome vanadium. Now there's a lot about that chrome vanadium. A lot of people, they see that chrome vanadium and automatically they jump the gun and they go buy it, and then what happens is over time they get a blade that looks a lot darker than this one right here, and then they get upset because they spend a lot of time polishing it, and they try to get it, because what they really want it to do is they want it to look like this one right here all the time. And this is a stainless steel. You can tell it's got that stainless steel on it. Okay, it says it right on it. So that's what people tend to do, because they don't understand what's going on. So there's a lot of different things that I've read, and I've even learned myself about the different types of metal. Sprinkle a little bit where I'm at, but it's okay. We won't, it's not going to wash us away or anything. We just thank God that we get rain. So let's talk a little bit first about the stainless. So the stainless is, a lot of people have trouble with it. A lot of people say, well, it doesn't stay as sharp as this one or that one. But in my personal opinion, this isn't just a review because I bought it today and I got it in the mail. I've had these for a while. I've carved, I couldn't tell you how many different spoons. I've used it for cutting up apples. I've used it cutting up even pieces of wood. I do a little bit of woodworking, and sometimes I use my knife. I probably should use a chisel instead, but a lot of times I pull out my pocket knife and I use it. I carry it with me most of the time to work, to wherever I go, and I don't really need one all the time. But just kind of the age group that I grew up with. I mean, if you needed to cut something, then you took out your pocket knife. It wasn't anything about I was there to protect myself like it is nowadays, which I'll be honest with you, I don't think 90% of the guys that carry a knife anymore that talk about protecting themselves, I don't think they really probably do. Most of the time they sit it out and they flick it back and forth, or they do different things with it, and that's fine. Everybody's got their own thing they do, but to me, there's just something about, you carry around a little pocket knife with you, and you just use it for different things. You always hear the same things when people do reviews. They always talk about cutting rope and opening boxes, and there's a lot more you can do with a pocket knife. I mean, there's a lot more times to where it depends. If you're doing stuff around the house, you strip wire with it. If you're doing little things around the house, if you do a lot of woodworking, of course, then you use it more than most people, because I mean, you take it and you carve it, and you make either spoons, or you make little figurines, or you do all different types of things, and there's different sizes of knives. So, but the one thing that came to mind that maybe it'd help people is when they buy a pocket knife, especially if you're going to buy a case knife, the differences between the two. So the stainless, it does take a little bit more, or the Tru-Sharp, what Case calls it, it does take a little bit more to get it sharp. So just like I tell people, the best thing to do is take your time. Don't get in a big hurry. No, you don't have to have all the fancy little tools. Be very careful with the knife when you go to sharpen it, because a lot of times we want to invest in a lot of these fancy little machines, but you got to be real careful. I used to work in a tempering shop years ago, and if you take this metal right here that's already been treated and you get it too hot and you start seeing a blue little coloration on it, then you've messed up the temper, which means that material's all of a sudden becomes soft. Basically what happens when you heat up the metal is all the little particles and everything in it expand, and then when you quench it in the oil, then the oil, you can force things back into, and then you quench it out real fast. So you opened them up, you basically put things back in it, and then all of a sudden when you quench it real fast, then what happens is you trap all that stuff in there. Now, the hardness, you want it just as hard to work with, but not too hard that it snaps. You can actually make something so hard that just by banging it with something, it'll snap. So it doesn't mean that just because it's stainless, it doesn't mean that it's not going to break. It can break. The main thing behind stainless is there's already so many little things forced into that metal that it won't allow anything else to come into it. It won't allow stuff to settle in. Doesn't mean your knife can't get rusty, because if you neglect it and you leave it wet, or you leave it in certain conditions and never fool with it, then even a stainless knife can get rusty. You can see little things happen to it, and if it does, it's a whole lot harder to get it off of it. So let's go back then. So most of us, when we get one that's got this chrome vanadium, let me wipe these little bit of raindrops off of this. So most of us, if we get one that's that chrome vanadium, and you say, well, that looks just like the knife before. Well, this does when you first get it. When you first get a brand new one of these knives, and most of them you can polish back up to look like this. And that's what a lot of us do. A lot of us want a nice shiny knife. We don't want a knife that looks dirty. You can see on this side right here how it's already starting to tarnish a little bit. I can put a little polishing wheel and some compound and bring that right back to shiny again. But the purpose of this metal here versus the other is this metal here is a little bit softer, in my opinion, in a sense that it can absorb little things into the metal, and that's actually why that changes colors like that. That metal isn't the same as this stainless. This metal here, it can absorb things into it. The acid from oranges, from apples, even just plain working with it, cutting up different things that have that acid in it, will turn that knife that color. And this right here, I've actually forced that on it by putting it inside of an orange and making it turn that color, because I want it to get that darker color, because that actually protects it when you force it on it. If it does it little by little and you don't keep up with it, which you can see this one, I mean, there's places on it to where I've neglected it, and it's starting to get little spots where it could very easily be rusted. So this knife here, it requires more attention. What do I have to do? I have to make sure that I oil it up if I'm going to put it away. I have to make sure that every time I peel an apple or something, I need to wipe it off real good. I need to clean it. I need to dry it. I need to put it up. I don't need to keep this right here stored in a cabinet somewhere and just keep it put away. I need to make sure that I oil it up before I put it away. Why? Because it's going to tarnish. Now, even though I've said, and it kind of seems like I'm contradicting myself, even though it sounds like, you know, well, it's softer, does that mean it's not as strong as the other? No, this right here sharpens up easier. When you go to sharpen this knife, it's easier to sharpen. Now, you would think that easier to sharpen is great, because easier to sharpen means it doesn't get dull as fast. That all depends on what you're cutting with it. If you're using it like I would be in woodworking, I mean, you can see most of these knives, I mean, they still have the exact same shape they did when I bought them. It doesn't wear knives out as much depending on what material you're carving. If you're going to just carve simple little soft maple or poplar or something that way, then it's not really that hard on your tools. Now, if you're going to use something like oak, or you're going to use something like a harder maple, you're going to use something like sycamore, which I've carved some spoons out of sycamore, then it's going to take, you're going to probably have to resharpen it after a couple of them. So that's kind of the way that, as far as the difference between the two, I think at times, and I don't know if it's just me, I think at times this chrome vanadium, I think it does seem to be sharper. But then I've also noticed, and I take my time more sharpening this knife, and I look at the edge a little more than I do this other one over here that's the stainless, this one right here. I tend to, you can tell, if I turn that in the right angle, you can see that kind of silverish edge compared to the darker background. So you can tell that there's quite a bit of the material taken away from there to make it sharp. Well, on this one here, if I turn it the right angle, you can still see that I've got about the same distance down through there on that angle of that blade from this one. So honestly, if you take your time to sharpen them, this one right here is just as sharp as this knife is. I could take a piece of paper, which I think's kind of funny at times, but I know a lot of people take a piece of paper and they cut them just to show how smooth that knife is. Well, I mean, you can hold the paper just right and hold the angle just right, and with a decent knife you can slice paper. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try my best to just help and get people to understand, because I know a lot of people, what they do is, and I've run into this a lot, they go out because everybody wants this knife, and there's nothing wrong with it. Everybody goes out and buys this chrome vanadium awesome pocket knife. This Trapper right here, in this chrome vanadium, that's the model number of it there, 3254. It's an awesome pocket knife, awesome to carry around, and it's kind of roughed up a little bit, but awesome to carry around. Just wonderful little blade to have. But because it's that chrome vanadium, in time it's going to turn to this right here. Nothing wrong with that knife because it turned to that color. The problem is a lot of us nowadays don't take care of our stuff the way we should. Old timers used to sit down and oil their knives up. I mean, they had the same knife every day. They used to be kind of expensive. I mean, they're expensive now, but to us nowadays, I know people that spend $100 on a knife, and they throw that thing in their pocket and they flip it open, and it's supposed to be for personal protection, and they probably never use it for anything else. And then they throw it in the drawer and they go buy another one because it looks nice. Well, old timers, it wasn't that way. Old timers, you barely made it. When you took your money, you went and you bought you one good knife that was going to last you, and you took care of it. You cleaned it, you oiled it at night, you sat down and you'd make sure that both the blades were sharp. They hunted with them. They used them to process their animals. They used them in the daytime to take their lunch. They'd take an apple or an orange and they'd sit there and they'd peel it with it. They did a lot of different things that we did. They didn't really, I know that it's kind of silly to mention it, but they didn't have McDonald's where they went and they just got whatever they wanted. I mean, they took advantage of what they had, and they took care of their stuff. So if that's what you're wanting to do, is really to sit back and take the time and keep up with your stuff, then there's nothing wrong with this knife right here. But don't get all mesmerized. Don't get all, oh my goodness, my life's dirty now I gotta spend the time polishing it up. You can do that all you want to, just like I've done to this one right here. You can polish it back up every day if you want to, but every day it's going to get a little darker and a little darker. And a lot of people, believe it or not, they collect them just for that reason. They collect them just because they can tarnish them, because they can make it. Now, if you're going to be a collector, most of your collectors, they focus on this right here. Why? Because most of them lock their knives up, they put them in a drawer, they put them in a safe, never touch them again. And believe it or not, they think, well, because I got that stainless one, then I'll never have to worry about it again. Every now and then they're surprised and they get their knives out, even those stainless ones, and they're rusted. Why? Because they've neglected them. You know, it's amazing to me that something so simple as a pocket knife could teach you, you know, a lot of things about life, to where that's how we are. You know, if you sit around and you neglect things that you know you need to take care of, then don't be surprised one day if you got a mess and you got to where they won't open and won't close. And that's just how things are. What do we try to do in life? Well, we try to get us a little pocket knife like this one, to where we can just throw around and do whatever with it. And even then, it gets us, because, I mean, let's just be honest. Anything man-made is going to have issues. That's just how it is. But I'm very fortunate. Out of all the little pocket knives I've ever owned, I really enjoy the case knives. They just, to me, they last, and that depends on your use, but they're very dependable. Case has a really good warranty with them. I even had one at one time that it was a really old knife, and they have a website that you can go on to, and I sent them a picture of the knife, and I said, hey, I was wondering if you could switch out the blades in this. It's kind of an older, and it was a Trapper that I had too. And they said, well, because of that tank stamp, that knife is old and we've changed how we make them. So we can't really take care of it. But if you want to send us that knife, then, you know, for $35, we can send you a brand new one that looks just like it. And some people may not like that, but I thought, man, that's pretty cool, because most of your case knives, that one right there is probably nowadays is probably going to cost you upwards of $40, $45 just for that knife right there. Now I was blessed. Most of mine I got used, or I've got off of people or different things, but they're just like anything else. I mean, you're going to pay a little bit for what you get for them. I know you can go out there and you can get steels that's 10 times better than these. You can get them to where you can do all kinds of things with them. But to me, that's just an example that I was trying to express to everybody, that look, when you get them, if you're going to give them to somebody as a gift, if you're going to get them to somebody that, hey, they don't know a whole lot about knives, then maybe it's better if you get them to stainless. If you're going to get it for an old timer like me, or somebody that, hey, they really like knives, they're into it, then that right there, that CV is something that's more for a user, more for somebody that wants to keep up with them. And there are times, like I said, that it seems that blade right there is, you can get a razor edge on it compared to these right here in that stainless. But then there's times that I picked up that stainless, so I'm not trying to say that one's better than the other. I'm just going to say that that they're both wonderful knives. They're both made by a company that obviously takes pride in their work, and if you learn to take care of them, then they'll both be useful for a long time. But anyway, it's just my way of kind of trying to help, just explain a little bit. By the way, that pattern on that one right there was this one I believe is a 6 or maybe a 4, depending on the material of what that knife's made. Let's see here. The pattern on that's 4254. This one right here. 4 is because basically it's more of a plastic or a Delrin. That's what that is right there. It's more of a plastic. These right here is a 3, and it's because it's that yellow color. About any time you see a 3 as that first pattern, it's going to be a yellow knife. This one here is white, even though sometimes it looks like it's a light blue. This one here is a white. And like I said, honestly, the knife itself, it's the same, both of them. They're just made out of different materials, and I enjoy both of them. Anyway, hopefully that'll help though a little bit and explain, and just be thankful every day for every chance you get. I thank God for every day that I get. Don't be in a hurry. Take your time. It does take a little while to sit down and whittle a carve, but just sit back and enjoy life, and you'll be surprised how life changes for you. Anyway, God bless you all. And like I said, maybe this will help somebody just understand a little bit more about these different types of blade materials. You all have a wonderful and blessed day.